Yeah, we get the Chestburster scene about halfway through the movie. This is like the big climax, and this is where shit gets real. It's crazy. This scene is very important to this movie's identity and how it got made. When Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Shusett were creating the idea for this movie, Dan says to Ron, hey, we need to figure out a way how the alien gets on the ship. And then so, weeks, days later, Ron is like, I got it. One of the aliens screws one of the humans. And Dan's like, what? What the hell are you talking about, Ron? What are you on?
I said he jumps in his face, plants a tube down him, inserts his seed in him, and later it comes bursting out of his stomach. And Dan goes,
Back to when this got brought to Walter Hill, Hill shows it to David Giler. They kept saying how much they hated the script. And like, the script is terrible. Hill says, the script's awful, but there's this one great scene, and I want you to tell me what you think. And David's like, oh, when he jumps on the guy's face, yeah, big whoop, who cares? He's like, no, keep reading. And David's like, I'm on page 90. When is this big scene coming up?
What's happening?
He keeps reading. He gets to the Chestburster scene, and then he's like, I bet. We making this. I can work with this. I think it's probably the most important scene in the movie. Hey, what's poppin', corn dogs? Benny Noodle, welcome in. It's a new year. It's season 4, year 4. Oh my gosh, I can't believe we've been doing it this long. Here we go. We're so back. Hey, I'm one of your hosts. I'm Captain Pop. I am a concession stand kid. I'm Snap Crackle Captain Pop. That's gonna be a new one. The McMaster is here, and I'm with my best friend in the world. He is my numero uno amigo. You might know him as the corn dog himself, the chief corn dog in charge. He is on a stick. His name is Nick. He's kind of slick, and he do be the king of glizzies. It is Nick Justice. Welcome in, pal.
Thank you, buddy. As always, new year, same intro, same dog, same corn, same thing. And we got another year of just great content for the folks, great movies, great conversation, funny shenanigans. It's what we're all about.
Now, I do have to throw a little asterisk on your same intro comment there. Because, Nick, I do got to start this year out with a bit of a bummer. Everybody, ladies and gentlemen, we need to say rest in peace to the term, he's the corn dog himself. He's sticked up, bricked up. Because my wife cringes every time I say that you're bricked up. And it's quite awful. I'm going to miss it. Also, I'm not going to be referring to myself as Jimmy Crack Corn anymore because apparently it's super racist. So it used to be tied to blackface minstrels.
Minstrels picking anything. Yeah.
Jimmy
Crack like, Corn and I don't care. Yeah.
No. We're not doing that, Nick. So like a minstrel show, if you're unaware, is back in the early 19th century when you have this theater production. It's probably all white actors, and they're putting on blackface to do caricatures of black people, such as slaves. So I thought, I didn't know that. So rest in piss to Jimmy Crack Corn. I need you to throw an F in the chat for bricked.
So is she mad at just the phrase, or is she not liking the fact that I do get bricked up for this podcast?
She doesn't like when I say that you're bricked up for some reason. It's like, it makes her, I don't know if it makes her uncomfortable, or maybe she's like, hey, I don't want my husband to be an immature asshole on a microphone and his kids are going to listen to this. But guess what, kids, future kids, if you're actually listening to this, bricked was a word for being erect, and it was hilarious. And I love saying
Uncle Nick.
So hey. I'm gonna say we'll take some audience recommendations. So instead of he's the corn dog himself, he's sticked up blank, he is Nick. I need some comments. I need some suggestions. Throw in your 2 cents. Let's make a contest out of it. Leave a comment, and you're like, hey, James, how do I leave a comment? Well, maybe you're watching this on YouTube, which is our video format, but we are available on audio, and you can follow us at Just Play It Podcast on Instagram, on YouTube. We are at Just Play It Pod on X, aka Twitter. Find us on Spotify, find us on Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast. DM us, give us a suggestion, because I gotta say, rip bricked.
And James, I'm going to share this with you, something I am committing to. My New Year's resolution is I'm going to get that X account pit popping. That account is going to be bricked up, going crazy.
Yes,
come over to
we are
X.
bricked.
Tell me what you think. I'm ready to interact. It's going to be a time and a half, and we're here for it. So
it is 2020 bricked.
Come at me.
Yes, 2020 bricks. It's happening. All right. Bricked up. Okay, that was the last one. Emily, we're woke now. We're woke for 2026. All right. We're gonna be on it. But speaking of 2026, Nick, what a wild year that we have ahead of us. So not only is it our 4th year doing this, but I tell you what, on the pod and off the pod, 2026 is pretty lit. Because first off, I'll share on the pod. As you can see, we are going to be watching the movie Alien from 1979. It is a franchise that I am very unfamiliar with. The fun part about this year is that we're actually doing a little bit of a tandem, 2 franchises of the year, because there's a little movie called Avengers Doomsday coming out at the end of the year. And I thought, oh, you know what would be great? Dipping our toes into the X-Men universe. So yes, our franchises of the year are going to be the Alien franchise. We're going to do the first 4, the ones with Sigourney Weaver, and we're going to be doing the original X-Men trilogy from the early 2000s. So that's going to be sick. I'm very familiar with X-Men. I'm not familiar with Alien, so I'm ready.
Dude, 2 franchises of the year. If that don't get you bricked up, I don't know what does.
Well, I'll tell you what gets me bricked up, because off the pod, this is an insane year for movies. Absolutely insane. Like, I feel like the movies are going to be so back. I mean, we have Avengers Doomsday. We have Toy Story 5. We have Dune Part 3, if it stays in 2026. Spider-Man Brand New Day. We have The Mandalorian and Grogu. We have a live-action Moana. We have the Super Mario Galaxy movie. We have Scream 7. We have the Masters of the Universe reboot. We have Supergirl. We have Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. We might have like Devil Wears Prada 2. What? That's crazy. No, there's a lot coming out this year. We might have like a couple potential billion-dollar movies on our hands.
Dude, don't twist my brick. I'm here for it.
Well, hey, let's twist some bricks and get into it. So yes, Nick, like I said, we are watching the movie Alien from 1979. I've never seen this before. I think you were mentioning that you maybe have seen this in parts, but it's essentially a first watch.
I'm calling it a fresh watch for me.
Before we get into any business, as is tradition as of last year, we got to hit the audience with our pre-pop points. So this is going to be our gut reaction score, and we're just going to follow it up with 3 simple words to describe how we felt about this movie.
All right, James. Well, I'm going to count you down from 3. I need to see your pre-pop score. 3, 2, 1. Let me see it. James, Alien, you gave that a very clean 8. And give me 3 words off the top of your head to describe this movie.
Simple, innovative, influential. That was it. I think I put them out of order, but whatever. I feel like I was almost going to say, like, we use this word a lot for when a movie's not good, which is uninspired, but I was going to say inspired. It had a lot of like great work put into it. There was a lot of passion behind it. And I was going to say it inspired a lot of other works, but then I subbed it out for influential. Nick, it is your turn for a pre-pop. I'm going to count you down as well. I'm going to want to see that number. And you're going to show me in 3, 2, 1. Nick, Alien, you are putting at an 8.5. All right, in the same ballpark. And your 3 words are?
Quite simple. It is suspense done right.
Ooh, you put a little sentence to it. Hell yeah. Now, I'm not gonna lie. I do have a final score that is different from my pre-pop. And based on our conversation, I want to see if I can hit that. You know, maybe it'll change, maybe it won't change. But that's where my gut reaction was. This is definitely in the 8s for me. And on a first time watch, I thought it really holds up. I was looking it up. Everyone says, don't watch the Blu-ray remaster. You got to have the film grain. I was like, oh, it's not up to me. I'm just going to rent it. And however I get it is how I get it. And it looked great.
Streaming, friend. I'm not going to go buy the VHS. Sorry.
I thought it looked great. I thought it was very good looking. I thought it held up very well. So I'm excited to get into it. And to get into it, Nick, we got to hit up our players. And that's going to be everyone involved with this movie. Nick, this movie is directed by Ridley Scott.
The one and only.
A first timer on the podcast, I believe.
Surprisingly, yeah.
And this is going to go ahead and be written by Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Shusett.
I do want to call out the composer here, Jerry Goldsmith. It was very well. If you're going to have suspense, we've talked about this before, you really need a good score. You need somebody who can really fit the mood of your film and get all of that audio captured into it. And I feel like he did a really good job. We'll talk about it a little more in plot talk, but I loved the score in this movie. And James, we're going to be starring here in this film. As everybody knows, we got Sigourney Weaver.
Very early role for her. This is like her second movie.
Unofficial friend of the show, an unreleased when we started this podcast, we did a
Avatar.
What's it called? We did Avatar, and we did what would you call it? A little like dry run of this podcast with an unreleased episode of Avatar.
I was hesitant to bring it up. Because nobody knows that we did that.
She's such an unofficial friend of the show.
I actually cut an episode of that, so it could technically get released, but I feel like our audio is so ass. It's just going to be a lost tape. It's 8 Crazy Nights. And remember we watched Thunderstruck, that Kevin Durant movie?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, those were all episodes that never came out.
Yep, awful. So Sigourney Weaver, we have Tom Skerritt, and we have Ian Holm as our top 3 build. We have a few more folks. We'll shout them out as we go.
This movie had an estimated budget of $11 million. I kept seeing 8. I kept seeing 14. I saw that 20th Century Fox wanted to originally give this 4-point-something million, and then they ended up doubling the budget and going over because it was very ambitious. But Nick, this brought in a box office worldwide of $109.5 million. During the original release, $79 million was the worldwide gross. However, 99.9% of that was domestic. So $78.9 million came from domestic. And the only international market with data available was Australia with $60,000. So it did not have a big worldwide release. I don't know why, but through the years of re-releases, which have come in the forms of 1982, which is just going to be basically the other English-speaking countries that are not America. It's the UK, it's Australia, and New Zealand. It adds another 165,000. Shout out to Australia for contributing $259 that year to this movie. You got the 2003 director's cut coming in, adding another $5 million. And then you have like re-releases in various countries in the years 2015, 2017. Well, shout out Bolivia for the $32 for that year.
Hell yeah, Bolivia.
So the 2017 re-releases were just in Bolivia and just in New Zealand. Bolivia opened to $26 and it ended with $32, whereas New Zealand opened to $22 and ended with $23,000. So, okay. It's weird how these work.
I'm not going to see it its opening re-release date, but I'll go a following weekend.
Spend my $6 on the next weekend.
There was like 3 people who went.
And then, of course, there's going to be the 2019 40th anniversary re-release. There's a 2020, 2022, 2024, and as recently as 2025. So a lot of these re-releases, like Back to the Future did this last October when it was its 40th anniversary. They said, hey, let's throw Back to the Future back in theaters. So that's going to add to its worldwide gross. So when we look at these numbers, we're thinking, oh, it got 100 million off the bat. No, it got 30, 20, less than that. And it's through re-releases of like special promotions or like maybe certain countries finally have access to it. I know we've talked about China where they get movies late, So yeah, interesting how that works.
Yeah. I just want to throw it out there. I love the whole idea of re-releasing some of these classic movies in theaters. Watching this film was great. And all I could think about was, man, if I was a 17-year-old kid watching this, I went on a date, I went out with some friends to the theaters, and I saw this for the first time on the big screen in 1979. How would that impact me? And I always try to do this. We try to look at it through that lens of, man, what if this was the first like sci-fi thriller that I ever saw? How would this impact me? And so I love the fact that they bring that in and maybe a kid or a teenager or a 20-something-year-old saw this for the first time on the big screen. And what a joy to be able to re-experience that as you seeing it as Ridley Scott wanted you to see it, sitting there on a big screen and everything. So I love this whole re-release thing. I want to be better about that, about seeing maybe a movie I haven't saw saying, hey, or I know the Lord of the Rings are doing a re-release right now in the theaters and maybe saying, hey, you know what? I need to go re-experience that the way it was intended.
Yeah, totally. I kind of was bummed I didn't go see Back to the Future in theaters because that was our franchise of the year last year. But yeah, and what's fun about re-releases is that, it's like people going to see it because they like the movie. It might be someone who's never seen it and it's their opportunity to see it in theaters, but majority it's like everyone's reciting lines or they're like, it's kind of like a community event, group atmosphere. Everyone's fans of the movies and like, what you're getting yourself into. Before we jump into our sacred plot talk, I need to just hit you with how Alien got made because it's a crazy backstory. Whenever I see these backstories, I watch these documentaries, I think, wow, what a bunch of certain circumstances to jump through in order to get the product that we got. Kind of like with the Lost Boys. Remember, that was like a completely different thing, and then it got thrown in the hands of this person, and then Lauren Schuler Donner comes in, and then this person comes in. And then it just becomes like this, its own thing. It evolved over time. And it just seems like it's like hitting the lottery of getting a movie sold and it becoming a reality. So this big influential movie does have a little bit of humble beginnings because Dan O'Bannon, who is the writer on this movie alongside Ronald Shusett. So he got into USC and guess who he linked up with? John Carpenter, baby. So John Carpenter and him were working on a student film together, which outgrew a student film status and blossomed into an independent sci-fi comedy that they actually got to go in theaters. It was called Dark Stars from 1974. Dan O'Bannon described it,
add it to the list,
as what would have been the most impressive student film ever made, instead became the least impressive professional film ever made. Dan, as a founding member of the Just Play It podcast, I can tell you, rest assured, that is not the case. We have seen some awful, professionally made movies on this podcast. So
we've also seen some good student films too, thanks to you and your degree. So
mine, no, they're not good. Thank you, though. Thank you. Dan O'Bannon said that the alien in his student film, aka independent film, Dark Star, was a beach ball. And you know what? He's like, I want redemption. I want to put like a actual fantastic looking alien into a movie. So I have this idea of Dark Star, and instead of it being a comedy, what if it was a horror film? So from there, the seed was planted for this 1979 movie called Alien. Ronald Shusett, the other guy on the writing credits, links up with both Carpenter and O'Bannon after seeing Dark Star. And he hits it off with Dan O'Bannon more, tells Dan that he has the rights to Philip K. Dick's short story called We Can Remember It For You Wholesale. And O'Bannon says, I love that story. Basically, like, did we just become best friends? By the way, I've got something that I've been cooking up, and maybe you're the guy to finally help me get this off the ground. This thing would be the movie Alien. So this is his horror version of Dark Star. Oh, by the way, the short story, We Can Remember It For You Wholesale, would become what is known as 1990s Total Recall. So those guys actually were behind that movie that was based off Philip K. Dick's famous short story.
I love that movie.
It's actually going to be on the list this year. It's been in the back of my mind, and I was like, I think I need to watch that. And then I read
Jerry
this.
Justice special right there.
I was like, as soon as I saw that, I was like, I bet Nick's dad has seen this like 15 times. Shusett called O'Bannon's first act of the story he had written fantastic. So he's like, yeah, you know what? Maybe I could help you out with this. So they decided to do Alien first because they knew that Total Recall would require a larger budget and could perhaps get away with a smaller budget on Alien. So Shusett name drops Roger Corman, stating, oh, it could be like a Roger Corman movie where it's just a single location. You just need a few different rooms in a warehouse, and it'll be easier to get away with a smaller budget on Alien than it would be Total Recall. Enter, not to this movie, but something related to Dan O'Bannon's career, Alejandro Jodorowsky. He's a Chilean-French filmmaker, hits up Dan O'Bannon and says, brother, I have the backing and the rights to make the feature film of Dune. And I know what you're thinking. This is not the David Lynch Dune. This is the Jodorowsky Dune. And if you never heard of that, don't be surprised because I'm about to say what happened with that. Jodorowsky liked what he saw in Dark Star in regards to doing special effects on a budget. So he hired Dan to work on his Dune project and help with the special effects and also help out with the story. Now, while Dan is in Europe, he's working on this Dune project. He meets Hans Rudy Giger. Hans Rudy Giger is an artist. He just like met him over there from this project because it was taking place in Paris and a little bit in London.
Giger's Swiss.
Giger's Swiss. Yeah, he's a Swiss artist. So Hans looks at Dan and says, "Hey, you want some opium?" And Dan's like, "What?"
Hell yeah, brother.
Why are you taking that? And Giger says, "I'm afraid of my visions." And Dan says, "It's only your mind." And Giger responds, "That is what I'm afraid of." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So Giger shows O'Bannon his book of paintings, which in retrospect actually look like the concept art for the alien in this movie.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'd be scared of my mind too if I saw Giger's paintings. I'd be like, what is going on in there, dude? That is frightening.
Opium-ridden brain. Kind of look like those ancient Greek sculptures on the wall with like a bunch of bodies everywhere. They're just kind of strewn about and everything kind of meshes together in a weird way. And your mind can kind of make out some sort of pattern of a humanoid design, but it all looks elongated. Or as O'Bannon described it, simply as disturbing.
You know what it looks like? It looks like the crystal skulls from Indiana Jones. Skulls with those elongated heads.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of our alien designs have come from Giger.
That's what I'm saying. This movie is hyperly influential. Yep.
Yeah.
I'll make comments on it now. I think this is the coolest looking humanoid adjacent alien that we've ever seen on screen.
Would you say that even Signs drew a little bit of inspiration from this alien?
I think it's impossible not to. Yeah. I think it's impossible not to.
A lot of our great alien movies have kind of gotten that inspiration.
Elongated, for lack of a better term. Yeah. The long head is so cool.
It's amazing.
And like, I like that there's no eyes on it. It's really cool. So Giger, even though you're fucking weird, you were hella talented. So way to go. Nick, this Dune movie that never gets made, it disappears because it was way too ambitious. It was going to cost way too much money. And ultimately it was going to deviate from the Dune novel tremendously. And O'Bannon is like, I just went to Europe for a year working on a movie that never got made. So what the hell? He returns to Shusett and says, we got to get back on our grind here. While typing dialogue for this Project Alien, one of the words that Dan had written into the script just pops out at him one day. It's the word alien. He says, that's it. That's the title. It's a noun. It's an adjective. It's perfect. Shusett's like, yeah, no one's ever just simply called a movie Alien. Like no one's done. So like we could totally do that. Clean title, simple, and iconic. So after they got most of their script done, they shopped it around, couldn't find a good deal, and they actually brought it to Roger Corman's team at one point. Now, if you're new to the pod, Roger Corman is a professional B-movie maker. He can make movies on a shoestring budget. We saw one of his films last year, the unreleased 1994 Fantastic Four film, which was done for about $1 million and quote unquote never saw the light of day. So they're like, hey, let's hit up them. They could probably do it on a low budget. And it almost looked like a done deal. But in some twist of fate, the final papers were never signed.
Thank God.
Because otherwise, yeah, Alien would have been a low budget Corman movie, which could have been tragic.
No offense to Corbin. No offense to Corbin.
This is what he does. And like, people are like, you can do this. So here you go. But that we would not get the Alien we got today.
No.
Enter some guy named Mark Haggard. He gets a copy of Alien and says, it's great. I love it. I'll get you the money immediately. And then Shusett and O'Bannon are like, okay, well, we don't want to blow the Corman deal. So like, how fast can you get this money together? And Mark Haggard's like, 2 weeks. I know a guy. So he knows a guy named Walter Hill, who, as Dan O'Bannon calls it, directs tough guy movies. Now I know him as a director of 1979's The Warriors.
Hell yeah.
Famously. Because I got into that movie in high school. I knew everything about it. I watched the DVD commentary. I was like, oh, Walter Hill, cool. He gives the script to Walter Hill. Hill shows it to David Giler, who is his partner, and then they show it to their other business partner, Gordon Carroll. So these are the three guys with the producer credits on the film. And all three of these guys at this point had just formed a new production company called Brandywine Films. Now, Nick, we got a writing credit controversy. It is dramatic. So David and Walter were basically rewriting the entire thing. They made many drafts, and Walter Hill even said, the greatest thing I can contribute to this movie is that I know nothing about science fiction and I don't like it. This is in Dan O'Bannon's voice. On this documentary, it's very clear that Dan O'Bannon is not a fan of Walter Hill. O'Bannon is like a quintessential, he's very nerdy, and which, I love nerds. I would say we're nerds to a certain extent.
I don't think you could write a movie like Alien without being nerdy. And I
no,
love that.
he's glasses, he's bow tie, he's suspenders in this interview.
Yeah.
And he's got a little bit of a nasally tinge to his voice, and he's very, very it's a little snarky when he's talking about Walter Hill.
As Walter himself said in one of the speeches he gave us during pre-production, he said, "The greatest thing I have to bring to this project is I don't know anything about science fiction, and I don't like it." And that was certainly reflected in the various drafts that they did.
So according to Ron and Dan, Ronald Shusett and Dan O'Bannon, Walter and David did multiple drafts, and they kept getting worse because they weren't science fiction guys. So Ron Shusett, he did give them props for one thing that they added in the movie that was not in the original draft. I will shout that out when we get there in plot talk. But Dan said that he walked into Gordon Carroll's office, that third business partner, and there was a script on the table that said Alien by Walter Hill and David Giler.
For some reason, I couldn't figure out. Walter Hill immediately started doing rewrites of my script. I remember walking into Gordon Carroll's office and seeing a script on the desk and lifting up the page, and it said Alien by Walter Hill. Gordon walks in. I said, "Gordon, what's this?" Gordon looked very embarrassed. He said, "Oh, you're not supposed to see that."
And Dan's like, "The fuck is this? Like, what's going on? You try to steal my script?" And Gordon was like, "You weren't supposed to see that." So remember Big Trouble in Little China? How it was a completely different idea from the writers. And then it says based on the screenplay by those guys, but it was rewritten by the writer of Buckaroo Banzai.
Yeah.
So like it became a completely different thing. So that's the thing that kind of sucks is when you have a story and you're in love with it, and then you give it to a studio, like they can kind of just like have creative license and do what they want.
You know what? But though good for a quote unquote nerd like O'Bannon, who's probably used to maybe getting stepped on or looked over to say, "Hey, no, what is this? This is my baby."
He's like, "What's going on here?"
Yeah, what's going on?
And so David Giler was like, we essentially overhauled the script. David and Walter Hill basically came up with the notion that this was supposed to be like truckers in space. And Dan in the documentary, again, with that tone in the body language, he is just not a fan of Walter Hill. He's very expressive in how he feels.
Good for him.
So Dan O'Bannon says,
The only thing I could see he was doing was just stirring around the elements. First thing he did was change the names of all of the characters.
He recalls Walter walking into an office during pre-production.
"I hate all those names in your script."
And then after Dan recalls that story, he rolls his eyes. Safe to say that Dan O'Bannon is not a fan of Walter Hill specifically.
I mean, I think everybody in the world can, in some way, shape, or form, relate to that, where everyone has someone at their work who just comes in and regurgitates an idea and tries to take credit, and everybody knows who this person is. But these people get away with it in society, to be fair. I have people at my work who get away with this.
I hate that.
They decided they wanted all the credit for the screenplay, and they didn't want me to have any.
Nick, Star Wars is a hit. And now sci-fi in the late 70s is hot. It's a hot new genre. So the only sci-fi space movie that is sitting on the desk of 20th Century Fox Studios is Alien. So boom, green light. It's in production at hyperspeed. That's how this movie got made. I will have some stuff to point out during the plot talk that is still related to the writing of it and a few other fun stuff. That's how this movie got off the ground. It got greenlit. It got cast. We got our team. Giger comes in for the alien design.
I have one thing to add, and it's just a perspective thing. So say you're writing it in 76. Let's just say 76, right? When you're saying, I want to do aliens correctly. That is only 12 years prior to Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. So you're talking about...
You mean after? 12 years after?
12 years after, yes. 12 years after Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. And so you grew up and your idea of aliens in film, right, is 60s aliens, which is just... It's just a perspective of like how fast film moves. And I try to think about, okay, 12 years from 2026 is 2014. And we had really good movies. And so, but how much was that change, right? The exponential curve of how much better movies got from the mid 60s into the late 70s.
when I was thinking about how this was the coolest design of an alien I've ever seen on screen, I thought, what's the worst depiction of an alien I've seen on screen? And I thought of Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, because it's just people in green makeup and green spandex.
It's only 12 years prior. And so I just want to say, I think it's so impressive for someone to have a vision. Because right now, if I think, oh, I want to make a superhero movie, right? And here's the standard. Like, you have a standard, right? You have the late 2000s, even early 2000s, Spider-Man's, late 2000s, mid 2000s, Iron Man's, right? You have these things. But if you're O'Bannon and you're Ridley Scott and you're saying, oh, what's my inspiration for an alien on film? You're thinking Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. I don't have it. So you're really coming up with something new.
Or like the 40s, like serial, kind of old timey, like creepy sci-fi, but very cheesy swamp things and stuff like that. But yeah, this was like big milestone for sci-fi.
I think it's really hard for us nowadays to envision seeing something new, because we've just seen so much over the course of our life in the film space. But to come in the 70s and create that, it's just a perspective I want all the listeners and even myself to remember as we're going through this movie of this is the frontier of a lot of this.
Yep. And I think it's time to get into the final frontier of this movie, Alien. And we're going to get to plot talk by doing what we always do, which is reading the log line. Nick, the log line is, after investigating a mysterious transmission of unknown origin, the crew of a commercial spacecraft encounters a deadly life form. Seems broad on the surface. Let's see if we can peel back the layers, get into some eggs, get into some chest bursting, and maybe birth a new redefinement of the genre for sci-fi and horror in Plot Talk.
All right, James, we are starting here. We're on a commercial spaceship. This is known as the Nostromo, and is returning to Earth when its crew is awakened from the ship's computer named Mother to investigate a mysterious signal on a nearby planet. So we're in these sleep pods. Think the movie Passengers with Chris Pratt, where they're all
cryo
asleep.
chamber sleep things. Yeah.
And James, let me just throw this out there. This crew, it's pretty diverse for 1979. We got a couple white American guys. We got a British guy on the crew. We got a couple of women. We got a black guy. And it's not like the black guy's like, oh, he's the space muscle. It's like, no, the women aren't just there for eye candy. Like, everyone belongs there. We got a nice, diverse, strong crew.
I think there was meaning behind that, because they're like, this is supposed to take place in, what is it, 2122 or something in the very far future. So like, it should be diverse and very obvious. Something I inadvertently learned while doing research: Lambert, the other female, apparently is trans, according to Aliens, because they do like little bios. So it's like 1986. That was in there. So yeah, no, very diverse, as you were saying.
Yeah, and James, let me just say here what the movie does right. And it's something we've talked about a ton on this podcast, but you're not going to give me a whole bunch of backstory, right? So you're telling me, all right, this is just a crew. They're used to being on this spaceship. It's not some novel idea. They get woken up. Nobody's freaking out. And this crew is interacting with each other in a way where it's not overly dialogued. There's some weird, awkward silences, but they're interacting in a way that feels like a real group of humans. And I think it's really good. So they're thrown into this, they're woken up, they're in space. This isn't a novel idea to them. And we've talked about this before, where I like when a filmmaker just throws us into a situation and says, hey, viewer, you are entering a point of time in these people's lives, and just accept it for what it is. You're on a spaceship with this crew. They know each other. This is the dynamic. This is their lives. And here you are. And I love that. I just love that to start a movie.
We didn't shout out the instructions, actually, because it does have very light instructions, which we are normally not fans of. But in a sci-fi movie, it said, hey, this is what's happening. This is a commercial vehicle. It's like a tow truck, basically. It's hauling some mineral ores, like 20 million tons or something crazy. And it's returning to Earth. And that's all we get. So we know where we're at. Like, we don't like instructions where it's like, in a world where this happened and da, da, da. So it's like,
yeah,
all right.
They're just saying, hey, here's the lightest bit of context you need entering this opening scene. And I'm like, okay, I could do that.
And I gotta say, I love the introduction. I didn't know how much of horror elements was going to be in this movie. Because from an outsider looking in, I thought Alien was, it's sci-fi. It's going to be mostly action, which apparently is where the franchise kind of goes to in the next couple movies, a little bit more action based than horror based. But as we know on this podcast, I've become a huge fan of horror movies, I think, over the last 5 years. And I think this podcast has helped my love and affinity for the horror genre. And I don't know if you feel the same way. I feel like that's a horror movie is like probably the most reaction you can get out of me. Because, we kind of see like crazy action explosions all the time. And comedy's got to be very particular for me to find it funny. But horror, I think, is like something that will get the most emotional reaction out of me.
I'm so dead and numb to like the big theatrical actions and the big theatrical things and twists at this point in my life that, I think a horror thriller's in that same vein. And I like the thriller idea where you can emotionally get me in one place and then twist me into another one, which this movie I think does really well. Other movies, Nope did that really well for me. And I wouldn't necessarily call that a horror. I'd call it very thriller. Get my heart rate up a little bit, I'm dead inside where I'm numb. I'm a millennial. Like I'm a little numb to everything. I've seen it all. Like, get my heart rate up, get me a little on the edge of my seat. And this movie does a great job of that.
Yeah. So I was pleasantly surprised that the horror element was going to be a huge factor in this movie, because it's basically like a monster movie in space, which I was like, this is awesome. But like the intro is like, we're looking down these long, empty, spooky corridors. I don't know if your algorithm is the same as mine, but it's like, it'll show us like the Fortnite map at 3 a.m. It's like just dark rooms, and it's like no one's there. It's all weird and creepy. Or like this is like the Mexican resort at 3 a.m. and it's like single lights on. You're like, the dark is creepy. When things are still, it's creepy. We're kind of like looking at the ship, and it's almost like a character in and of itself, because there's like pages blowing, there's like chairs moving. It's almost like a haunted house looking thing. We'll learn it's because the air ducts, they're always like, blowing air around. Air ducts are going to be the way the alien gets around. But I want to shout out Ron Cobb, who actually is a friend of the show on the crew side. So he's a concept artist, and he designed most of the interiors of the Nostromo. There's a different guy for the exteriors, and then Giger came in for other stuff. He was the time travel consultant on Back to the Future, and he was also a production artist on Raiders of the Lost Ark. So he's been in 3
friend of the show
franchise of the year movies. Pretty cool. So Dan O'Bannon actually brought him on because he thought he was an exceptional artist. And he mocked up all the concepts for what the spaceship interior would look like. But I love the introduction to this crew because they all wake up in those cryo chamber pods, like you were saying. And I don't think you see Sigourney Weaver's character on that shot. You see Kane, you see Lambert. So you see all that, and then actually focuses on Kane. You're like, all right, is this our main character? And then, during that, like,
this is John Hurt,
scene,
by the way.
John Hurt. So like the meal scene, everyone's kind of talking over like each other, and there's not like a focused conversation. It's very natural, like you were saying. But I like where it's like an ensemble, where it's like, okay, this is clearly the good guy, and this is clearly the bad guy. It's like we kind of just like, this is our crew, and we're gonna learn who our heroes are and who our villains are as the movie unfolds. I thought that was really cool, where it didn't just kind of beat it over your head of like, this is who you should be rooting for. Because there is kind of moments when you're like, oh, I don't like, I would agree with this, but I don't agree with this. And then by the end of it, you learn who your heroine is. And I thought that was really cool.
Everyone's acting in a bit of an emotional state throughout the movie. And like you said, there we have, and I thought Ridley Scott did a great job of this. There's times we get a lot of first person views of things. We get a lot of third person views of things. We get just a lot of different shots. And like you said, we are, as the audience, a character sitting at the table with them, getting to decide for ourselves who is doing what. Do we like that guy? Do we trust what he's saying? He's a little too chummy. He's a funny guy. He's this person. She's really smart. Is she too smart? And so we're introduced to this cast of characters thinking, right? Because we, like you said, we know it's a horror. Like the whole time we're figuring who can we trust, who can we not, and it adds a lot to the movie.
Nick, and speaking of this crew, did you do your friend of the show deep dives? Because if you didn't, I got you, dog.
I did not. Hit me.
Oh man. So Harry Dean Stanton.
The
he
name
plays
looked
Brett.
familiar.
Yes.
Yeah.
The name looked familiar. I caught it in the opening credits. So this is actually going to be the character of Brain in Escape from New York. That is the second movie we did ever. And yeah, the name stuck out. I was like, yeah, that's right. You were like, that's who you are. And you know what's funny? In the Escape from New York episode, I said, oh, he's also the guy in the Avengers, the security guard who finds Bruce Banner, who falls through the ceiling. One of his lines is, are you an alien?
Are you an alien?
What?
From outer space, an alien.
No.
I was like, that's hilarious because he is famous for being in this movie Alien. That's good. That's good.
I recognized him from the movie The Green Mile, which I recently learned was filmed at the Tennessee State Prison, which is a 3-minute drive from my house. I can see it from my window.
Oh, cool. You should go on a movie tour if they do those.
It got hit by a tornado about 3 years ago, and they found out it is filled with asbestos. So they have closed it down since.
You should stay away from that place. Tom Skerritt plays Dallas. Would you believe me if I said that he's a friend of the show?
I would believe you because Tom Skerritt's been in like just about everything.
Give me a guess of what you think he's been in. Very small character.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I know he's Viper from Top Gun.
Year 2.
I know Year 2. I don't know. Hit me.
He is the police chief in Smoke Signals. Remember when Victor Joseph and Thomas Builds the Fire were brought into that police office after there was like a drunk driver encounter on the road or something?
Yeah.
And he was like unnecessarily giving them a hard time.
Yes.
And then he's like, you can go. Remember that?
Yes. That's Tom Skerritt. I mean, I know Tom Skerritt's one of those actors who's been in everything. I mean, I have his IMDb up right now. I'm going to click on him and he has 174 actor credits. Like he's just...
What's funny is like he's been completely under the radar for me because the only thing I know Tom Skerritt from is I remember in the movie Ted, Mark Wahlberg works at a rental car company and his boss at that company is really proud of a picture that's framed on his desk of him meeting Tom Skerritt.
My life could be your life. A cushy $38,000 a year branch manager who's personal friends with Tom Skerritt. I'm gonna show you something I don't like to show people because I don't want them treating me differently. Boom, that's me and Skerritt. Wow. Goddamn right, wow.
Tom Skerritt.
And I was like, who's Tom Skerritt? Apparently he's been in a bunch of stuff. Nick, you think I'm done with Friends of the Show? This crew is full of Friends of the Show because speaking of Kane, John Hurt, who also plays Ollivander in the Harry Potter movies, the guy who owns the wand shop. That was cool to find out. Nick, he is a friend of the show. I was mind blown to learn that he plays Professor Oxley in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Ah, for God's sake, man. Go get help. 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 Help.
This is like can't speak. Blah, 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 blah.
He was like,
Oxley?
yeah, someone was up with him. He was like crazy or something. Yeah.
Holy shit. It is.
Yeah. I've looked it up.
Son of a bitch. I believe you. I just son of a bitch. Yeah, it is.
You think I'm done with Friends of the Show? Ian Holm, who is also best known for being Bilbo Baggins in the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I was going to say,
trilogy,
this is Bilbo. Yeah.
Which we have not watched. But he is a friend of the show because he played Cornelius in The Fifth Element. He was the modern day priest that was like the overwatcher of the secret organization that had to fight the great evil or something. I was like, okay, this is crazy. How many friends of the show we have seen, and I have not clocked any of them. I only clocked Harry Dean Stanton by name, not by face on any of these guys.
This whole movie is friends of the show.
And I'll just round it out with someone who's not necessarily like a prominent face, but this is a stunt person who plays the alien in portions. There is this 7-foot guy named Balaji Badeo, who is the main guy in the suit, but This other guy, Eddie Powell, did stunts as the alien. And Nick, I had to shout this out because he was in 3 movies we watched. He did stunts for The Last Crusade, Batman 1989, and most importantly, Cruel.
That's insane.
It is insane, isn't it?
I love all of this.
Moving on.
This is what a wonderful cast. And the movie introduces them all so well. So, James, in the movie here, they're going to land on a planet. LV-426 is the name of this planet.
I think it's a moon, actually. It's like a moon in a system. They get the transmission call, and they're like, oh, this is like an SOS. And then Parker is like, I don't want to go deal with that, like, unless we're getting paid. And then Ash, who is Ian Holm, says, well, according to this thing, blah, 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 we have to go investigate it if it's a distress signal. They're like, all right. So they take this separate ship. They fly. They land on this moon. We got Dallas, Lambert, and Kane going onto this moon. They're going to go investigate it. I was going to say, there's a lot of black in the coloring of this movie. It's a lot of darkness, and there's a lot of atmospheric smoke happening. And some of that is to set the tone of being creepy and eerie, but a lot of it is to kind of hide the imperfections of like the set. Because again, there's still like a budget restraint. And then on some things, it's like, if we didn't nail it, we don't have time to go back and do it again. So this is what it is. But there's this really cool set that they call the space jockey. So this is where they find that big pilot guy. And in future movies, you would learn the lore of how this happened here, because basically they got in this crashed spaceship, and there's like this fossilized skeleton of this guy. This entire set was designed by Hans Giger, and Giger himself even painted the whole set, which is crazy.
That's awesome.
This was almost not going to make it in because about the cost and like the amount of usage it was going to have. So, it's like, how much does it cost versus how much are you using it?
ROI.
Like in the movie Nope, they build the entire house because they're going to be there a lot. But for this one, it's like, we're just seeing this. We're in here for like 3 minutes on screen, and then that's it. Ridley Scott saw the drawings that Giger did for this set, and he said, nah, like, you can't cheat this, even though it cost them around $400,000 to $500,000 of their limited budget. We're going to get into the face hugger scene. So Kane's going to make his way down to like this hole. He's going to find this big room of eggs. They're all really organic and gross.
Leathery is a word they use.
And all these aliens have like some sort of like, very organic, but also like mechanical. Like there's a lot of like Giger used like motorcycle parts and like car parts and like big tubes to like, be like spines and bones on the wall and stuff. These face hugger eggs are fiberglass and glass. They're mostly glass because there's that part where it's transparent and you kind of see something inside. What I thought was cool is that through that distorted glass of the egg, you think it's the face hugger, which kind of has like hands, finger, legs, and it's all creepy. But this is actually Ridley Scott's hands behind the glass making a butterfly with them. And I'm doing like a flutter from behind the distorted glass. Simple as that to get the effect sold. That's cool.
There's a lot of red herrings in this movie where like there's like this suspense and then this like false jump scare. And then like, oh, okay, it's not that. And then the actual jump scare. And there's a lot of that. And it might be a tad overused, but I always enjoy that where they kind of mess with the audience. We're like, oh, you're expecting the big buildup. Oh, it's a fake. Never mind. Let your guard down. Never mind.
Classic.
Don't let your guard down, you fool.
When they open up this egg, you see this really organic looking gross thing. And this is actually a cow stomach, the gross innards of the egg. When Kane is looking down, it's Kane's POV. And then when Kane gets attacked by this thing, Ridley Scott used a sheep's intestine for the whiplash effect. So, the little like fleshy snake thing that shoots up at it. That's just the sheep intestine that's getting ripped back down into it. And then they play it in reverse to look like it's shooting out. A classic practical effect.
Sheep intestine, that's a delicacy up in the north, man. That's some tripe up in Minnesota.
And then later on when they dissect this thing, they actually have it be made of like oysters and like other fish parts.
Oyster makes sense. I was wondering. I was like, that looks... I think I've eaten that.
Yeah, but this face hugger spider creepy thing jumps up on Kane's face, and then all of a sudden we're back at the Nostromo, and this is where we kind of get that, do I agree with this person or do I agree with this person? Because this parasite that is attached to Kane's face, Dallas and Lambert are bringing them up to the ship, and they're like, let us in, let us in, let us in. And Ripley's like, I can't do that. It's going to go against quarantine. This is not the way we do things. We need to wait 24 hours. And then they're like, he might die in 24 hours. So usually I feel like in movies, we'd be on the side of the people being like, fuck the rules. We're bringing this thing. We're saving our man. We're not nerds. I was kind of caught in between that because I would be like, if Nick had a face hugger on him, I would let him in, try and save him.
Yeah.
But Ripley's right. It's changed everything.
Ash has that British accent that's a little evil, right? That like 007 Bond villain accent that sort of makes you think like, what's your prerogative here, friend?
He was my early nom for piece of shit because he opened the hatch, didn't listen to Ripley, who's technically in charge, didn't follow the quarantine protocols, and I called him the Rudy Gobert of the Nostromo. Remember right before the NBA got shut?
Yeah, it's coughing on the
Before the NBA shut down, he's like, oh, I'm not afraid of this like coronavirus.
Yeah, no, I remember that.
And then he was the first NBA player to get COVID. I was like, idiot.
Unfortunately, I think his mother or grandmother ended up passing from it. Like it was just very sad. But yeah,
you know, who's also going to pass away from not following protocol? A lot of people on this fucking ship. So,
unfortunately,
disobey a direct order and let this parasite in.
I want to bring this up because you had mentioned this, that a lot of the movie is dark and black, but there's two places that are very, very white and light. One is the mother room, which is the big computer room, which has your very 70s tropey. It's like a lot of lights that are just like flashing and flickering. I like to think that the production spent the money here in this room to make it look cool and said, hey, we want to illuminate this, make it look really cool. The mother room and then the infirmary here, right, where Kane gets brought to is very white. Actually, three, because the hyperbaric chamber room was very light and bright in that first shot. And so I don't know if it's like, hey, we spent the money here on these practical effects. We want it to look very bright. We want to really show it off. I couldn't really find, I was trying to think of a motif maybe where like the rest of the world is black. These rooms are white because they're illuminating.
There's definitely there's like a big birth and mother theme to this movie.
Yeah.
Eggs, alien babies being born out of men. A lot of sexual violence is in this movie. I think that's a huge theme. And violence against women, I think, is another theme. So it kind of reminded me of Fury Road because that was like a lot of similar themes there with violence against women and sexual violence and sexualizing things. And this was like over-sexualized. I think Veronica Cartwright, who played Lambert in that documentary, she said, we walked on the gear set and there's all these big vaginas and penises. I was like, whoa, Veronica, what are you seeing?
Giger's sets were so erotic and, I mean, it's big vaginas and penises. And, I mean, it's like, you know, it's the whole thing is like you're going inside of some sort of womb or whatever. I mean, it's sort of visceral and all of those things. And I think all those elements came into it. And that's what makes it really work.
But it's all, a lot of it is very phallic. And there's like a lot of like,
yeah,
I think I heard from somewhere it was supposed to make male audience members uncomfortable because this face hugger like shoves a thing down this guy's throat and impregnates him. And then
pretty much,
yeah, it's like a lot of weird like sexual stuff. Like there's a part where the alien, like his tail comes up in between Lambert's legs. And
okay, I was going to ask you about that because I'm like, did he just, or did I imagine that?
Did he just spike the hoo-ha?
Because he spikes up and she goes like, ah, and we don't see it. And I'm like, did I imagine that? Or is that what happened in that scene?
Bro was bricked.
He got Jack Frosted.
With a carrot. A throwback.
Okay, let's get back into the plot here.
Where do you want to do this? I'm making a decision just below the knuckle.
And they try to cut the face hugger off. It spits out acid. It burns through the ground.
And I like that they established that.
Yes.
The no plot hole there of like, why don't you just shoot the aliens? Like, well, you might die because it might just bleed on you. As a defense mechanism, as they call it in the movie.
And they took like 5 minutes out of that movie for the characters to go out down and see like, oh, is it burning through the ship? Like they really...
Yeah, I thought that was... I see. I like when they do stuff like that where it's like, yeah, go investigate that potential plot hole. It's like, hey, where's
Yeah,
that? Was that going to go through the entire ship?
And in a way, it dragged out the runtime a little bit, but I'm okay with that because, again, like you said, it plugged those plot holes for me.
The pacing was really good. I was surprised how long this movie was because it didn't feel long at all to me.
2 hours.
Personally, not a lot happens, quote unquote, but I think it's just that's the simplicity shining through in this movie. Speaking of pacing, we get the chestburst scene about halfway through the movie. This is like the big climax, and this is where shit gets real. It's crazy. This scene is very important to this movie's identity and how it got made. I think it's probably the most important scene of the movie. When Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Shusett were creating the idea for this movie, Dan says to Ron, hey, we need to figure out a way how the alien gets on the ship. And then so, weeks, days later, Ron is like, I got it. One of the aliens screws one of the humans. And Dan's like, what? What the hell are you talking about, Ron? What are you on? What the fuck, Ron?
What a wild sentence. Why would you say that, Ron?
Dan said, somehow the monster has to get on board the ship in a way that'll amaze everybody. And so I woke up in the middle of the night and I said, Dan, I have an idea. And he said, what? And I said, the monster screws one of the people. He says, what? What are you talking about? I said, he jumps in his face, plants a tube down him, inserts his seed in him, and later it comes bursting out of his stomach. And Dan goes, oh my God, that's the most amazing thing I've ever heard. Nobody's ever seen anything like that. And we just sat up all night and we wrote, and in 3 weeks, we had I would say, which is 85% of the plot, the structure. We didn't write the screenplay right there of what you saw became Alien.
He fucks the alien.
Gets real bricked up.
Back to when this got brought to Walter Hill, Hill shows it to David Giler. And them, again, as like kind of producers, screenwriters, not sci-fi guys, they kept saying how much they hated the script. And like, the script is terrible. But Hill says, the script's awful, but there's this one great scene, and I want you to tell me what you think. So then David Giler reads it, and he's like, yeah, this is terrible. And Walter says, oh, did you get to the big scene yet? And David's like, oh, when he jumps on the guy's face? Yeah, big whoop, who cares? He's like, no, keep reading. And David's like, I'm on page 90. When is this big scene coming up?
What's happening?
He keeps reading. He gets to the chestburst scene, and then he's like, I bet. Like, we making this. I can work with this. And I knew it was coming because it's so iconic. It has been spoofed. It has been parodied so often.
Yeah.
So I just knew what was going to happen. But I'm sure back in the day watching this, that was probably nuts.
I was trying to think to myself, again, like we were saying, what if you saw this for the first time in the theaters in 1979? And honestly, even today, it's a jarring scene because they're all back at the table eating. They're thinking they're going home, back to Earth.
Good.
They're like, oh, my buddy's okay. We thought he was dead with that face sucker on him. Oh, my gosh. And he's kind of sweating. His color is a little off. His tone's a little off. His veins are a little pronounced. And you're like, this guy's not okay. And he starts violently just seizing,
convulsing,
and I'm thinking to myself, man, if I was 1979 sitting in the theater for the first time, I'm 17 years old, it's a weekend from high school, and I go to see this movie, this would shake me. This is a wild scene.
Yeah, especially if you're a kid. This is like one of those scarring scenes if you saw this as a child. And apparently there's some sort of authentic reaction from the actors. I think they all knew what the general idea was, but I don't think they knew they were getting squibbed with blood, with like the amount of blood.
Blood was shooting everywhere.
Yeah. And there's like a part where like the puppet like doesn't burst through the shirt initially, and they kept it in because they're like, it looks real. It kind of looks like like a heart coming out of the chest. They're like, what was that? And then all of a sudden, this little
unsettling
puppet dinosaur goes across the table. It was iconic. It was great. Might be my favorite scene of the movie.
Nobody jumps into action. Well, somebody wants to cut it. I think it's Parker wants to cut it up. And Ash is, again, we're a little suspect of Ash. And he goes, no, don't. Because like, we want to know what's happening here. And they let this little newborn alien baby escape into the ship. And it's going to start growing a little bit. And here starts that horror. I said to myself, this feels like The Thing. Yep. Definitely feels like John Carpenter's The Thing. And after you given us that background of John Carpenter, I was like, okay, I see all of it. I see the vision.
It was ridiculous how much Thing vibes I got off this movie.
The Thingiest vibes.
But it was 2-3 years before it. I think that might have influenced The Thing, honestly.
And like the thing, we're going to start getting into picking off the crew one by one. And I love this part of the movie because we start to venture. This ship they're on, by the way, is really big. It's a really big spaceship they're on.
Crazy that there's only 7 people on this thing.
Dude, it's massive. And we start to venture off into areas of the spaceship. And I definitely see the Giger vibes of some of these areas because we enter this one room. I think it's Brett enters a room where everything on the wall, like you said, is almost that like steampunk car parts, Giger,
mechanical,
messed up art, mechanical on the wall. It is creepy. There's a kitty cat on this ship,
Jonesy.
I love me Jonesy. And so it's picking people off. We got Des, we got Brett. I called it the kitty cat death because he's going after our kitty cat, and the alien gets him. We got an air duct death by Dallas. Dallas is in those ducts, which, as you mentioned, this is how the alien's moving around. A whole, the whole crew's tracking the alien on the computer. It's right on top of you. It's coming at you. We don't see it. We don't see it. We don't see it. And then, bam, it gets Dallas. And so we get a lot of those suspense moments.
Quite a decent jump scare, I'll say. That was like
really good.
During these death scenes, this is where we kind of see more of the final evolution of the xenomorph, which they don't call the alien xenomorph.
I was going to say, xenomorph has to be coming in 86.
I think it's coming in Aliens, and then like online they're like, well, technically, there was a guy.
Actually,
it's not what it's called. It's just like that's what it should, like the type of whatever. I'm like, okay, it's a xenomorph, but I'll get into the design of it. So yeah, this is Hans Rudy Giger again cooking. And Ron Cobb, our friend of the show who did all the interiors of the ship, was like, are we sure we want this Giger guy hanging around and on our team? His stuff is a little bit fucked up. And then Giger in that documentary, he, in his like Swiss accent, he was like, I like if they're disturbed. Yes, that's good. People are like, this guy is like Dracula. He dresses in all black. He's kind of pale. He even self-proclaimed he doesn't like the sun. He likes the shadows. Ridley, Dan, and Ronald Shusett got along with him great. They loved the guy. Apparently he was a sweetheart.
Good.
But yeah, Giger designed the xenomorph, and it took a whole team of special effects people to like get the animatronic little mini mouth to shoot out of the big mouth. It took engineers to design that.
You an alien?
But Nick, I have to shout out something, and this is going to be spoilers. My best yeet nom. When they yeet our boy Kane out into space.
He does get yeeted.
They're like about to send his corpse into space, and it's like wrapped up in a blanket. And it's hilarious because Dallas like looks at everybody's like, does anyone have anything to say? Click.
Anybody want to say anything?
Ejectocito, cut!
Nobody says anything, and this guy gets fucking sent into space. It was comedy.
I have another yeet in this movie that was my best yeet nom. So we'll have to talk about that here in a sec.
We'll talk about it. This yeet of Kane's body was cool because it was actually an 8-inch wooden sculpture that was projectile shot from something called a fisherman's catapult. Maybe you're familiar with what that is.
Nick Alder got hold of the fisherman's catapult for firing bait out into the pond where you're fishing. And he just put a flat right down at the end of the studio, and he just pulled the catapult back and fired my little model, and it went down the trench. And of course they filmed it at high speed, so that it came out in slow motion.
It was shot from that underneath this 40-foot long miniature of the bottom of the Nostromo, and they just shot it at high speed and then hit it in slow motion. And then before gravity took effect, where like it's going to go hit the ground, they just cut the shot.
Dude, I love miniatures. I wish bring back miniatures, man. It's such a good movie making device.
The sculpture guy who like made that little 8-inch dead Kane said the documentary seemed like it was maybe like around the early 2000s. I can't quite tell. But he was like, CGI will never replicate what miniatures do, and I think it's going to be detrimental to the models and like filmmaking in general. And I think you and I both agree, like, you can absolutely do both. And hopefully you're marrying both at the same time. And it's got to give you a really cool, good looking product, because you can't beat practical. And when you do that movie magic, like what we're talking about, I have an affinity for movies that do stuff like that, especially back in the day when that was the only way to get it done. I think it just makes these movies that much more special and magical. And yeah, this movie had to do a lot of creative hula hoop jumping.
There's nothing that breaks my heart more than when I see an Instagram post or something from an actor with like, I'm on set, and behind them is just this massive warehouse of green screens. And you're like, no, come on. We could do better, right? We could do better. We have done better. And it looks really good. So let's do that. So shout out to the miniatures of that. And I just love that skill set of creating that environment through that. So
it always works.
It does. Well, James, we're back on the Nostromo, and Ripley is saying, hey, I'm going to figure out what's going on, because with the death of Dallas, she is now the acting commander. She goes, I'm going to go talk to Mother. Right up to now, it's only been Ash talking to Mother, because he is the scientist. He's the science personnel.
He's like the science representative for the Wayland-Yutani Corporation, which is going to play a way bigger role, I think, in the franchise later. It was kind of one of those things where it's like, yeah, we had scientists lined up, and then like last minute they replaced our guy with Ash.
She says, I'm now the acting commander. I don't need you. I have access to Mother, who is the ship's computer. And she's going to go in and talk.
It's like an AI?
Yeah, it's like a big AI
is Mother like
interface.
AI? Okay.
Well, early AI, yeah.
Yeah, she's typing it in. It's like War Games. She's now typing it in. She's like, what is Special Order 937? And then it says the order was to reroute their ship to the new coordinates so that they can investigate this deadly life form, capture the alien specimen for analysis. And that was the primary goal. And then the bonus goal or bonus attribute of this mission was that the crew was expendable.
Yes.
We don't care if they die.
I really like what they do when they talk to Mother. It's not a over the shoulder of the type out. It's Mother's interface becomes the full screen. The computer screen becomes the full screen. Really, Scott does it really well. Perspective of characters. And like I said, you have some first person, some third person throughout the movie. Just does a really good job. And then Ash is in the room with her when she finds out that this is the thing. Like, this is what's happening with Mother. He does. He pops up over her shoulder, really creepy. And then he attacks her as if it's his command, because he's the science officer. She overrode it's a whole thing. And Ash now all of a sudden starts beating her up. He rolls up a magazine to shove in her mouth. I mean, it's a brutal scene. Like, this is like a murder scene.
Yeah, Ash had a secret agenda. He had secret orders this entire time. This is the plot twist that we're hitting in the movie. And then, so yeah, he's attacking Ripley in real time. This is what I was writing down. This is what I thought was happening. I thought, oh, is he being mind controlled to do this? Because there's like this weird milk sweat that's coming down. I was like, wait, is the alien above him? Is like that the saliva of like the KY jelly? They used a shit ton of KY jelly.
So much jelly.
This would have made Diddy jealous.
It's Diddy'd.
Diddy would have been bricks. And yeah, no, the KY jelly like all over the mouth. And it's like, again, it's like kind of like the weird like sexual stuff. It's like lube. When Ash attacks Ripley, you know, you got the milk sweat. He's got the milk sweats going. And then I was like, was something implanted in his brain? Like, cause there's a lot of organic stuff that I was like, is he being mind controlled? So in my notes, I wrote down, if Ash is being mind controlled, he has this moment of regret and humanity in his eyes, saying he doesn't want to do what he's about to do right before he attacks Ripley. Cause he makes a facial expression like, I really don't want to do this, but I got to do it. And then I said, so does that mean he's been under control since the initial diagnosis scene? And then later we find out he's a robot. And I said, never mind, he's a robot.
He's an android. Yeah.
He takes a porno mag and shoves it down Ripley's throat.
Remorseless. He's just like, it's surgical.
I had to pop the corn here because he's freaking, he's having a crash out, android style.
Yeah.
Because he can't understand that like someone found out the plan or whatever. So he starts going like crazy on Ripley. And then so my question was, why does Ash grab Parker's porno mag, roll it up into a tube, and then shove it down Ripley's mouth? And then so Ridley Scott offered up his 2 cents, and his explanation was that
I always thought that was interesting, that do humanoids have sexual urges? This is the closest he ever gets to a sexual relationship.
he thinks Ash had some sort of underlying sexual desires for Ripley that he could not control or understand. This caused his circuits to fry somehow.
Huh.
Yeah.
I didn't get that at all.
Well, I want to get your ideas on that quote and what do you think happened with Ash. But yeah, I was like, okay, so somehow Ash has evolved into like a being with humanistic desires. And like Ash is an interesting character because right before he goes out, like his last line is like, you have my sympathy. But then he kind of gives him like a little shit-eating grin right before he dies out. It's like, is this guy being like sarcastic and sadistic? Is because that was very insincere. That was not robot-like.
Yeah. He goes, you can't kill it, but like basically you're going to die. And I've grown to like you in some capacity. So I'm sorry that that's happening.
So I'm like, maybe AIs have like moods and behaviors.
I'm not comparing it. This is 1979. I'm not comparing it to today, but I work a lot with AI in my normal job. We've worked with it on this podcast, and that's probably something it would say. Where I was like, if there was a asteroid heading towards Earth that was unavoidable, what would you say to me? It would say something like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Like that's what it's supposed to say.
Yeah,
right. Like this is the logical thing
it's
to
like
say.
Malfunctioning, so it's like
I'm sorry.
its emotions aren't matching what it's saying. So there's also that.
Yeah,
but Nick. Him being a robot. So remember I was like, Ronald Shusett gave props to Walter Hill and David Giler for one thing, adding to the script.
Was it this?
It was the fact that Ash was a robot.
Oh.
So that was never in the original script.
But they contributed one thing, which is one of the best things in the movie, and I will eternally be thankful to them, not only for starting the ball for financing, but to contributing this to the movie. What they invented was the robot. That was not in the movie, where the robot's Ash is a robot and his head comes off. That whole idea and scenario was theirs.
Nick, I don't use the term knock your block off a whole lot, but Parker knocks the block off of Ash because I thought it was a cheap effect. And like, I was like, did he just knock that human's head off?
Welcome.
But that's where we find out he's a robot when Parker like.
Well, I thought he was an alien because we didn't know he was a robot first. So I thought he knocked the head off, and I was like, "Is this guy infected by the alien? Something weird?" And then again, props to the whole Ridley Scott and the writer saying, "Hey, just accept the world for what it is." When it turns out he's an android, no one's that freaked out about it. They're like, "Oh, it's an android."
It must be normal.
Again, we're living in this new world. I do like though where the android does grab Parker's titty and gives him a nice grab, and Parker's like, "Oh!"
I thought we were gonna get Mola rommed. I thought Parker was gonna get Mola rommed.
Camera. Camera.
I was like, wait, if he is strong enough, he could rip out his heart. Actually, it was on the right side, so it would just be ripping out his pec,
his titty. If somebody just grabbed my pec and squeeze it, I'd be like, okay, I'm still effective. But it was debilitating to Parker, that squeeze. So I'm like, wait, he's stronger than a normal British man.
Something else. Yeah.
Yeah. He's an android. That's what it turns out to be.
And he dies. He gives one last warning to the remaining crew of the Nostromo. We realize that the company wanted the alien all along, wanted it preserved. Unfortunately, we do lose Parker and Lambert to the alien as well.
It's a double kill.
The tail up the hoo-ha. And then Parker, I think, the little tiny mouth tongue, like a pneumatic tool, like punctures his skull.
It's a little viper strike.
It was nuts. So Ripley and Jones are the only survivors of the Nostromo. And it's really cool because there's not a lot of words being said because there's not a lot of characters alive. So Ripley's just kind of like going through the darkness, the still hallways. And she's like, I need to get off the ship and we're going to self-destruct this thing with the alien inside of it. So there's this escape shuttle called the Narcissus. And she's like, oh shit, I gotta go get my cat. So she goes back and gets Jones. We don't know where the alien is. She's got this big flamethrower looking gun. And she scoops up the cat, gets on the escape shuttle. And we're like, all right, cool, we made it. And I thought that was a little like, it was a lot of suspense, but then like nothing happened.
Anticlimactic.
Another one of these, like the alien was in the shot the whole time because his head kind of looks like a tire, like a non-treaded tire.
The big
almost.
rounded,
big round rubber looking head. And his head is in one of the shots when she first walks into the shuttle, just blended in with the ship perfectly. And this fucking guy found the ship. Like he's so smart, knew where she was going and stalked. I didn't understand why it was so like kind of lethargic and docile in there. It kind of just like it reaches out at her and then she's like, oh, but then like it doesn't immediately leap onto her, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So she jumps into like this other portion of the shuttle where there's like a spacesuit, because basically she's going to tether herself to a chair and then like open the hatch and like have them
the airlock. Yeah.
But she does need help with a harpoon gun. I see that this might be your yeet.
This is my yeet.
Gotcha.
Yeah, she has the harpoon gun. It's in the airlock. It's holding on for dear life. And she yeets it. By the way, is she holding on to Jones? How does Jones survive this?
I think Jones is in like it's like a cat carrying chamber that has to be locked down somehow.
Has to be, right? Because Jones would have been yeeted off to space. So our alien gets...
Would have been our second cat yeet of the podcast.
The alien, not Jones. Jones is... The alien gets hit in the chest, gets yeeted, and it kind of floats off into space. It floats into one of the... What would you call it? Jet turbines?
Thrusters?
Yeah, the thruster. And then Ripley just hits the thruster and just... I liked the yeet of this because she yeets the alien, and then I don't think this was intentional, but knowing what we know about space now, this is what would happen. When you go out into space, you'd get rigid because it's so cold and devoid of air that you would just you'd become a plank, right? Just
seize up.
I think it's just the they didn't have the practical effects to make the alien like struggle in air. It just becomes this like stiff board of an alien floating through the air. And it's like practically it actually looks good compared to today's, because it would just get like and it gets yeeted off, and then Ripley, we get the voiceover of her recording her final log entry into her journal, and she goes to sleep, and we kind of zoom in on her in her hyper chamber, and I was so expecting some sort of like here comes number 2, right? Like Jones the cat. I was expecting Jones the cat to be infected or something.
No Freddy Krueger ripping the mom through the window moment.
None of those, and we're good. And surprisingly, not to blow the load early, but the next Alien doesn't come out 7 years later. So they really sat on this ending as this is an ending to just a standalone film. Like The Thing, right? Where we thought, oh, The Thing could have had a great sequel. And they were like, no, this is just it. This is the story. This is the ending. Live with it.
And that is the movie Alien from 1979. We hit credits. And Nick, as is tradition, we have to shout out the funniest names in the credits. I am going to shout out friend of the show, Ron Cobb, because that's just a funny little name to say. A little corn on the cob, Ron.
Corn Cob TV.
The other one I found was Charles Lippincott.
Lippincott. Lippincott.
Also, I want to shout out not a funny name, but a familiar name, Les Dilly. You actually shouted him out during the In Memoriam section of the Rap Party because he was the art director on Raiders of the Lost Ark. And he passed away last year. So shout out. He worked on this film too.
I love guys like that in the industry who's made such an impact. You don't know their names usually, but we know your name on this show. You're never forgotten. You're a talented guy, and thank you for all your work, Mr. Dilly.
We are thankful for all those guys that work behind the scene, and we're thankful that we watched this movie. And in order to commemorate how much we're thankful, we got to get into our first of the year mini pops. This is the award segment. This is where we hand out the best, we hand out the worst, so that they can make an appearance at the end of the year. Cornies and poppies. But we got to get into the little mini episodic awards. And Nick, exciting news. We have added a new category. It might be categorized under the best yeet or what would you call that? Classification. Because every movie might not have this award come into play. But just how every movie doesn't have a best yeet, we are adding the best death because we think we see a lot of movies with a lot of cool, iconic death
We sure do.
And they need to have their flowers at the end of the year. And one of them needs to be crowned at the end of the year special, which is the Rap Party, which is our most recent episode. So if you haven't watched that yet, it's a hoot. It's a 2-parter. Go back, listen, watch. It's on YouTube. It's on Spotify, Apple Podcast, wherever you get your pods. Check us out. But Nick, for the business of Alien, I need to see your nominees for the mini pops first. And I want you to show the audience in 3, 2, 1.
My best weapon, well, that would be the harpoon. My best fighter, well, James, that would be the alien, later called the xenomorph. But in this movie, just the alien. My MVC for this movie is going to be Ash. My biggest piece of shit is also going to be Ash. And my best death, that's going to be Dallas. And James, my best yeet, as I said it before, was the alien getting harpooned out of the shuttle. All right, James, we need to sync it up. I need to see your nominees for this movie. I'm going to count you down from 3 and show them to me. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Let me see them.
Mini Pops incoming. Nick, my best weapon for Alien is going to be the flamethrower gun that Ripley was holding. Didn't see a lot of action out of it, but I thought it was really cool looking. My best fighter is also the alien. However, I am throwing out the wild card of Ripley because here's the thing with franchises of the year. See these guys again at some point. We'll see a xenomorph again. We'll see a Ripley again. One of them is going to make an appearance, whether it's for this movie, for the other movie. So they're going to be in the Cinedome, which is going to be in the Rap Party, which is our fictional fighters tournament of all the characters that we deemed the best fighter of the movie. Nick, we have matchy for MVC and biggest piece of shit of Ash.
Oh, hell yeah.
We do have not matchy for best death and best yeet because the best death was the chestburst scene for Kane for me personally. And the best yeet was Kane's corpse, of course, getting absolutely missiled into space after no one had anything to say about him.
You know what? I'm super down with the best death. I like the Dallas in the air vents. I thought it was very suspenseful. But as far as impact, I do think Kane's death. So we're going to go with Kane's death on the best death. I'm
it's
super
just too
into
crazy.
That.
Yeah, it's too crazy.
It's so iconic. And I totally didn't even think about Kane's death as a yeet. And you're right. The more I think about it, what a hilarious yeet. I love the.
I laughed and rewound it.
I love the fact that we matched up on Ash as the MVC because he moved this movie along, and he's the biggest piece of shit. So I'm super happy.
Easy work.
Knowing what we know,
weapons.
Knowing what we know about the Rap Party, and again, if you haven't listened, go back and listen. If you're going to get a weapon in the Cinedome, you better pray for a flamethrower. So flamethrower
pulse rifle is in. Cool. All right. Well, that we kind of were
good awards.
Kind of made light work out of the mini pops. Not much to debate there. So, all right, cool. That is our lineup of awards. First one of the year. How exciting. The road to the Rap Party
starts right now.
But Nick, we do need to get into our final review, and we're going to get there via our sarcastic selling points. And speaking of The Thing, my sarcastic selling point was The Thing, but in space.
James, I pulled my exact sarcastic selling point from the episode The Thing, which was we have a thriller horror mystery with an alien, but giving it an Invasion of the Body Snatchers vibe.
Is that just a copy and paste from The Thing?
That's a copy and paste of my sarcastic selling point from The Thing, and I think it fits, and I'm super into it.
Final review. Fight.
All right, Nick, and we are now into the final review. This is where we get into what the other guys think about this movie, and then we'll get into what we think about this movie. Starting out with the usual suspects of Rotten Tomatoes. The critics, 93% of those critics, thought that this was a good movie.
They did, and James, the people are a slight bit higher. They're at 94%.
And Nick, the critics on Metacritic are a little bit lower than that. They're giving it an 89 out of 100, aka an 8.9.
Well, our people are on the exact same page as the critics on Metacritic because they're also giving this an 8.9. And I got to say, you know you made a good movie when the critics and people are saying, yeah, we're on the same page here.
Nick, it always is nice when the critics and the fans are on the same page. And now for our face hugging, alien fugging, that chest be bursting, and Ash ain't no person, and now Kane is male birthing. Oh damn, the situation has worsened. Score. Brought to you by Ripley, believe it or not, from IMDb and 8.5.
Whoa! Are we a xenomorph? Because we're body snatched all up in each other here, brother.
Did I just get face hugged by a spider hand? I don't know. But Nick, I gotta say, this is actually pretty similar numbers to our first movie of the year last year, our kickoff for Back to the Future franchise. These are pretty similar numbers because they're all averaging out to a 90 across those 5 media outlets, just like Back to the Future. So we're in good hands.
We sure are. And James, now I'm going to share with you my favorite Rotten Tomatoes review that I found there on the site from the audience review. If you want to somehow end up on this podcast, write yourself a funny review. I might find it and feature you here. But James, this is from Eamon the Chicken from December 31st. I think this is 2025. And they said, after giving it a 3.5 stars out of 5, I can't write too long review because there's so many alien movies. So that stops them from writing a long review on one of them because there's just too many.
Okay.
But I'm impressed it doesn't look like stupid kindergarten drama club costumes. And the best part is the cat lives its normal feline life. With experience with my cats, Joan shall experience no drama. In my pet's case, they may be too dumb to know what even the fuck happened.
I love the grammar in that one. I always love a good, like, what is this guy on? Opium?
We could only hope.
That was the funniest review. That's what the critics and fans were saying. Now it's time to get into what we're thinking about this movie. We're going to hit you with our laughable log lines, our final popcorn points, and final thoughts. Nick, I am going first, and my laughable log line is: a crew of space truckers crack open the wrong egg and end up getting freaked on by a bricked up alien.
Bricked up?
What's funny is that I actually wrote down a horned up alien, but bricked up was a crucial part of this episode.
Big time.
My final popcorn points are: I pre-popped it at an 8. I said I kind of had a number in mind of where I was going. But Nick, I'm going to do something crazy. I'm going to pull an Ash and do something that's completely out of pocket and break protocol. Because I'm tired of being chained down of a rating of a different movie. That is not this movie, and I think should be a lot higher. And I know we're supposed to do this during the wrap party, but I constantly bring up how good The Thing is. And on this podcast, I am readjusting my personal score of The Thing from an 8.1. And the more I sit on The Thing, and the more I'm like, why did I give that an 8.1? It deserves to be higher. On the Alien podcast, I'm upping The Thing to an 8.6, and I am putting Alien at an 8.4. Because I just think that, not to compare apples to oranges, but this felt very much like The Thing. It felt like a very solid horror movie. And I like The Thing because it had that element of like, can you trust this person here? Whereas this was such a good, simple, innovative, trailblazing monster movie. Redefined the sci-fi horror genre. It was very influential. A very well done movie, especially for the time, especially for the budget. It still holds up. And I think it's just groundbreaking work, honestly, by Ridley Scott, by the writers, by Giger, by everyone involved, everyone bringing in their creative minds and trying to see how can we get this movie up off the ground. This is right after Star Wars, so there's not a lot of trust in sci-fi movies, and there's been bad sci-fi movies, and there will be bad sci-fi movies. But when I was watching this, I thought, man, this completely holds up to today's standards. There's no real cheesy effects, I don't think. I think if anything, maybe just like you could just tell it's old just because of the practical sets and like the miniatures in space, but none of it looks bad. It just looks magical, in my opinion. I was pleasantly surprised with Alien because, like I said, I'm a big horror fan, apparently, that I learned about myself. And I thought that this was a really well done sci-fi movie. And like I stated, this is the coolest looking alien that I think I've seen on screen, which is great. I love when the aliens are villainous and monstrous. And this is a classic for a reason.
I love that review, James. And it's my turn. I'm going to piggyback a little bit. Spoiler alert on you. But I'll hit you with my laughable log line here, which is: a crew is coming from a simple mission back to Earth. Oh, wait, we just got to make a quick stop on an alien moon. Ain't nothing bad going to happen today, do we? And James, as you mentioned with your review of The Thing, was an 8.1. I gave it an 8.4. I'm going to give Alien an 8.7. So it's 0.3 above It's a 0.3 above The Thing for me. And I'll just say this. There's a reason this alien design, and again, big shout out to Giger on this one. There's a reason this design, I said this out loud to myself in the shower last night, which sounds really weird. It's coming up on 50 years of the same design. We're almost 50 years removed from this movie. We're about 3 years out from the 50-year anniversary on this one, and the same alien design is being used. It's timeless. It's classic. It suffers a little bit for me. It gets a little bit of the Signs treatment, which is a little too much of just Dead Space suspension fill, which I hate. It's a personal thing. It's not everybody feels the same as I do. I understand that. But I do love at the end, they do this wonderful thing in the escape shuttle where Ripley, which is Sigourney Weaver's character, is just doing this heavy breathing, and you're cutting between her and the alien in this flashing strobe light of you're slowly exposing the alien and its full form and what it looks like. And it's beautiful. I mean, it is so wonderfully done. I think same thing with The Thing. Once you realize what the monster is, that first death on Dallas, I think it is. Or no. The first death is Brett, the kitty cat death, yeah. I call it. Yeah, the kitty cat death. Once you realize the alien's hunting, it kills a little of the suspense. And sometimes I think the dead space is a little too much. But it's wonderful. Again, I'm trying to think of myself. 1979 is the first time someone's really coming out with this thriller, horror, sci-fi, suspense movie with this real life scary alien on the screen that isn't some weird, wacky, good like idea of an alien. First War of the World sort of idea of it. And it's just crazy innovative. And like you said, it holds up really, really well. And Ridley Scott is a legend for a reason with how he does it. So I'm very happy with that score. It's a very high 8 for me. Rewatchability, I'm kind of upset at myself I haven't rewatched this. If it comes out in theaters for a 50th anniversary, I'm going to watch it hands down, because this does feel like one of those movies that deserves to be seen on the big screen.
Really, really cool movie. I think I couldn't put it up in the high 8s just because I know sometimes I'm always looking for like a story or like a theme or something. And there's a lot of themes in here and I don't know what they quite mean. Maybe it'll come to me later. But it's just a good monster movie. Honestly, it's just a well executed horror monster movie. And I think there's something to be said about that. Just like setting a template for the standard. And I do want to leave this off with, I just remember this from the documentary. I don't have this written down, but Dan O'Bannon, when the movie is finally complete, he was still kind of like a little salty about everything, how everything went down. And just like, he was like, I was like, I don't want to go see this movie. I'm not going to go see this movie in theaters. And he said he was just driving around aimlessly.
I guess he got drunk or something because he almost didn't want to come. He said, I can't take it.
I'm not going to that. At 7:55, I suddenly turned the wheel and ran. I drove like a rocket into Hollywood. I drove up and I parked somewhere and I got out. And I saw this huge line of people. It went down the block and around the block. And I said, is that for Alien? They took me in and we went inside. I floated in and the theater, every seat was full. And they put me down in a seat somewhere and I sat there.
And he's like scared shitless. He's like, how's the audience going to take this? And then when he was like looking at dailies, he was like, holy shit, like this looks great. Like now I see the importance of getting a director who is so, puts a lot of importance on the look of a film, because this has like such a beautiful look to it. And the art direction was there. The cinematography was there. Everything was there. It all came together. And then he said he was sitting in the theater and he was like crying that it was a real thing.
Good for him, man.
The 20th Century Fox logo came up, and the whole audience cheered. Yay!
And we heard these tremendous shrieks and cheers and applause. And about the third scare in, and Dan was sitting behind me, and he started weeping.
And my eyes flooded with tears, and the tears just ran down my face. And I just sat there and watched the movie.
And I said, Dan, Dan, and he says, I can't believe it. It's real. That's real. And he was just got crying through the whole. Here's everybody cheering. He's this guy behind me crying.
Limp as a rag.
After all that like turmoil and just like getting jerked around, he was like, holy shit, like we did it. That is the magic of movies. And that is the movie Alien from 1979. It is our franchise of the year. I'll call it the main franchise of the year because X-Men, like we said, is coming into play because Doomsday is at the end of this year. X-Men are going to be in it. They're bringing in the original cast. So that's our other franchise. We did it with Fantastic Four last year. It was like our franchise on the side. Even though those were disconnected movies, not really the same. This is going to be the complete trilogy.
We watched more Fantastic Four movies than Back to the Future movies.
So we will watch more Alien movies than X-Men movies. But X-Men are coming in, and Alien and X-Men are two properties that both have more movies than we're watching, but we're kind of focusing on a set of characters or a set era. So that's actually going to be what we're going to be watching next time. So we want to thank you guys for listening. Don't forget to follow us. We are at Just Play a Podcast on Instagram and YouTube. We are at Just Play a Pod on X. Like I said, we're going to snick into next time we do this with the X-Men. And that is all we have for you. So we are heading gone for the first time in 2026. And remember, if you come across an egg and you get bursted, you better watch out for that bricked up xenomorph. Because he's going to get you with the KY jelly.
I would love to use the word bricked, but I'm going to not do that.
You should do it.
Now I just want to do bricks. I just want to play Lego Island 2. The Brickster.
The Brickster. Dude, that's so funny. Now, I thought about that too. When I was like, I'm going to make an announcement. I'm going to stop saying bricked. And then I was like, the Lego video game was crazy.
It's all about bricks. It's all about being bricked up.
Can you imagine the Brickster? That's like a superpower. Just being bricked.
He ate a hot pizza and burned steel.
He was bricked.
Limp as a rag.